Okay, good evening, brothers and sisters. It is great to have each of you on tonight. And thank you for joining us for our midweek Bible study and our session on student loan forgiveness and the student loan process. We're grateful to have you. And we want to make sure that you invite someone else to join us. So please um, share our study for tonight, our time tonight. Please share it with someone else so that they might get this very helpful information. We're appreciative of all of our students and all of our guests who join us each Wednesday night. And so tonight we wanted to bring you some empowerment information to make sure that each of you who has student loans or need to know more about the student loan forgiveness process or what's happening since the Supreme Court ruling and how to get through this successfully. We wanted to make sure we provided that information for you. So God bless you. So make sure you share it because there are a lot of people in the community, persons in our church, persons in your family, people that we know who will be helped by this. So we see you coming in. Thank you so much. Share it with someone else, like it also on our platforms. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. And what I'm going to do, I'm elated to introduce our guest for the evening, who is Lauryn Williams. Lauryn is a certified financial planner, professional in the financial industry. She has been doing this for some time. After a career as an athlete, she pivoted and began to help athletes and other young adults focus on being financially responsible and financially successful. So Lauryn, welcome and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Pastor Lomax and Fountain family, thank you for having me. This is a huge topic. I know a lot of people have a lot of stress related to their student loans. It's been over 3 years since many of you have had to pay on them. And I thought, what better way to serve my community than to share my expertise and help people maybe get started, get back on track, because yes, the payment pause is going to be over for real this time. I believe it. I know it to be true. And we got to be ready, Fountain family.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So the pandemic brought a temporary blessing that you could put the brakes on your student loan payments, but all that's coming to a screeching halt.
I know a lot of people were praying, Lord, make these loans go away. I don't ever want them to come back. But he said, you got an education. You need to pay for that education. And so you have to pay something. You didn't have to pay for 3 years, but you're going to have to pay something.
You're going to have to pay something. So, without any ado, because we want to hear everything that we possibly can that's going to help us. So each of you are coming in. Thank you for being here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And Lauryn, you go ahead and take us through this.
All right. Well, like I said, Pastor said, my name is Lauryn Williams. I am a certified financial planner. I am a certified student loan professional as well. And just to tell a little bit of how did I come to become a student loan expert, I run a company called Worth Winning, and it is a financial planning company that is specializing in helping young professionals organize their finances. So if you're an entrepreneur out there, you probably know when you get started, it's a lot of family and friends. The very first person who came through the door who was not a family member or a friend was a young lady who had $365,000 of student loan debt and about $150,000 of income. And she was upset. She was like, I thought that when you made it to the 6-figure mark, things change, things get different. Everyone's like, once you get to 6 figures, life is better. And she's like, it doesn't feel better. I'm just paycheck to paycheck trying to figure out how to pay my student loans. And I panicked. I was just like, oh my goodness, they did not teach us this in certified financial planning school. What do I do? She owes a whole house worth of student loans. And, she's trying to make the best of her finances. So I went down this little rabbit hole of trying to figure out how to help her. I ran across, at that time it was student aid. I think it was FAFSA.org or something, but now it's studentaid.gov. That's the main website for student loans. And didn't look back. I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many different options, so many different things to know about this. And I need to be able to figure out how to help people just navigate their student loan environment. So today we are going to be talking about all the things that are new, different, exciting, as it relates to all the changes that have been made while the loans have been on pause for the last 3 years. So let's get the party started. Can we get going with that second slide, Pastor Lomax? All right, so payments are about to begin. What does that mean? Payment pause ends on August 31st. So we are in the end of July. End of August, they're going to say the pause is officially over. But you don't have to start paying at the end of August. What is going to happen that next day is that interest is going to start to accrue again. So why is this relevant? You may be a person who's been setting money aside, for the past 3 years. Like, hey, I know my student loan payment is $300 a month, but I don't want to give my money to the government until I know exactly what's going to happen. So you got this little money stockpiled over to the side. You're going to want to make your payment before August 31st so that you can take advantage of that 0% interest that you've had for the last 3 years, get your loans paid down, and then get really aggressive about paying your loans back. So interest starts to accrue on September the 1st, but you still don't need to make a payment. When do you need to make a payment? Starting in October. So you might not be exactly October the 1st. You might be the 23rd or the 17th, or, you have a set payment date, but it will be in October. Now, the other key piece of this puzzle before we head over to the next slide is that if you're on an income-driven repayment, so IDR, income-driven repayment program, there's 4 different types, which we're getting ready to talk about, you will pick up where you left off. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you were in school when COVID started and you didn't have any income. You had signed up for an income-driven repayment plan, and you're done. Like, you get out of COVID forbearance, and we're going to start our payments. You're going to pick up where you left off with a $0 payment. Another example is that the last time you recertified your income was in 2018 or 2019. You gave them your income, and then the COVID pause began. You're going to pick up with that same payment you had in 2018 or 2019. And if the Lord's been blessing you the way that I hope he has, your income has probably gone up since then. So this is a good benefit. You might start back with a $200 payment when in reality, you've got a new good job that would really warrant a $400 or $500 payment. You will have to recertify your income again and update your income information, but you will not have to do that immediately. So be mindful that you may not want to give your income information right now. You may just want to pick up where you left off. If you are a person who has had student loans or had a drop in income since the last time that you've had to pay loans, then you do want to recertify your income.
Lauren, before we go to that next slide, we want to make sure that if you have a question, please drop your questions in the chat. We want to make sure that those questions are answered before you leave tonight. So please, brothers and sisters, drop those questions in the chat tonight.
Absolutely. I am here to serve you. So please don't be shy. All right, let's head on over and talk about some of these repayment plans. Like I said, we may have some people that are brand new to repayment, people that, like I said, have been in repayment or trying to figure out what to do next. So with student loans, there is a rule of thumb for how to treat them. The rule of thumb is that if your balance is less than your annual income, then you should be looking at paying your loans off aggressively. So that's the person I said who's been putting money aside all during COVID, hoping to pay their loans down in their entirety. So let's think about this. You make $150,000 and you owe $50,000 as a student loan balance. You earn more than you owe. That is a situation where you should be aggressively looking at how to pay your loans off. If you earn any, if it's 50,000 and you earn 75,000, just to make it a little bit closer, you're probably still in that aggressive bucket. On the flip side of that is if you owe $150,000 of student loan debt and you earn $50,000 a year, then you should be looking at what we call the passive approach. The passive approach is when you're taking advantage of these income-driven repayment plans. So they're tied to your income. You're going to get an affordable monthly payment based on how much you earn. And you're not probably going to be paying the loans off in full over the course of time. You're going to be paying what's affordable for you so that you can save up for retirement. You can take care of your children. You can save up for that home down payment. These payment plans are made so that you can have something affordable for your student loans and still live your life. That's one of the things that people don't sometimes understand. All right, so either you're in the I earn more than I owe, or I owe more than I earn boat, and you want to decide which bucket. So let's talk about what the payment plans look like for those. All right, here we go. So income-driven repayment, IDR, is the name of the program. And then underneath the umbrella of income-driven, a lot of people say income-based. It's not income-based. The program is called income-driven repayment. Under that umbrella, you choose one of these 4 options you see here. ICR, which is income contingent repayment, IBR, income-based repayment, pay as you earn, or the revised pay as you earn plan, which has just been modified to be called the SAVE plan. That was one of the big announcements on June 30th. So you have 4 different income-driven plans. You see they all sound the same, but they are absolutely not the same. And so now you can see why people get like really worked up and they're like, oh my goodness, like what is best for me? Because there is a most cost-efficient thing for you based on your personal situation. It is not one size fits all. Not everybody should be on an income-driven plan. Some people should be paying their loans back. And then within the income-driven, you need to choose which one of these is best for you. So ICR is going to be what you're limited to if you have Parent Plus loans. It's the only payment plan that's available to you after you have consolidated the loans. So if you've borrowed on behalf of your children, or you're planning to borrow on behalf of your children, ICR is the plan that you're going to be, it's going to be relevant. It's going to be 20% of your discretionary income on a monthly basis. And you're going to pay your loans back over a period of 25 years. If there's anything left over after those 25 years are done, then they will forgive that amount. ICR is not a good plan. You see right underneath it, we've got one that's 15% of income, one that's 10, one that could be 5 or 10. So it's like, if we're trying to pay as little as humanly possible toward our loans, we don't want to pay 20%. We'd like to pay one of these other numbers. The problem with the ICR is that that's the only one available to you when you have Parent Plus loans. But you're like, wait, Lauren, I don't have Parent Plus loans. Well, guess what? All these other plans that we're talking about you're eligible for those. So income-based repayment is going to be based on 15% of your income. So that's a smaller monthly payment than the first one. It's still a 25-year plan. Whatever is left over at the end of that time frame is forgiven. The one thing that people don't realize, a lot of people don't understand, is that that forgiveness is not tax-free right now. So you need to be saving up to pay the taxes if you've been on one of these income-driven plans for the duration of the time that you've had these loans. The last one, or the third one here, is the pay-as-you-earn plan. You can only get on that plan if you borrowed exclusively after October 1st of 2007. So if the first time you took out a student loan was in 2002, you're not eligible for the pay-as-you-earn plan. The first time you took it out was in 2004, not eligible. First loan that you ever took when you went to school was 2008. You are eligible for pay as you earn. Why is it good? It's 10% of your income. So that's giving you an even lower monthly payment, which means more money is going to be forgiven for you. And then it's only a 20-year plan. So now that's 5 years less than either of the other 2 plans we talked about. Last but not least is the revised pay as you earn plan. Revised pay as you earn has been 10% historically, but what they've done, they said, hey, as of July 30th, no more revised pay as you earn. We're going to replace that with this new SAVE plan. And they're going to do 5% of your income for any of your undergraduate loans and 10% of your income if you have graduate school loans. They're also going to calculate the payment between 10 and 25 years, depending on what your loan balance is. So if you have a loan balance of less than $12,000, it's going to be a 10-year plan, and then they're going to continue to go up. Every $1,000 that you have, it goes up until you hit a 20 or 25-year plan. So they're revamping. If you're on revised pay as you earn right now, it's going away. You're going to need to opt into SAVE, or they might just automatically put you on the SAVE plan. But that plan is going away, and you're going to have to make arrangements for something different. The good news is that the SAVE plan is much better than the repay plan, but I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get over to another slide.
Yeah, Lauren, before we go to the next slide, I just want to make sure that those who join us tonight understand conceptually what you've spoken about. So the first one, the ICR, is what type of plan is that again?
All of these plans are based on your income. They're all income-driven repayment plans, but the ICR plan is only going to be relevant to people who have Parent Plus loans. It's the only plan you can get on. Income-based repayment right underneath, everybody's going to be eligible for. If you have what we call FFEL loans, that will be the only plan that you're eligible for right now. But you can do something called a consolidation and get access to the IBR plan. The pay as you earn, only if you borrowed after October 1st of 2007. And then that save or repay plan that you see, as long as you have direct loans, you are eligible to participate in that one.
So I guess it's important for those of us who have student loans to go back through your documents and make sure you understand what type of loan you have and how this applies to you. One other question I want to ask about the middle column, the 20%, the 15, the 10, and the 5 to 10. Now, when you say 20%, let's look at the first row. The 20% over 25 years, say, means what? What does that 20% mean?
So let's say that you make $100,000 per year. They're going to say how many members are people in your family. You say I have 2 members in my family. So they're going to say what is the federal poverty rate based on your family size. And let's just say that they come up with $15,000. There is an actual number that is the federal poverty rate that is defined each and every year. So they're going to say for a family size of 2, $15,000. 100,000 that you make minus 15,000 is $85,000. So they're taking a certain amount of money out of your income before they even do the calculation. And then they're going to say of the $85,000 that you make, 20% of that is what you should have as a payment. And then they're going to do a calculation there. So it's 1.5 times the federal poverty rate based on your family size, and then either 10, 15, or 20% of your income. So it is not based on how much your mortgage is, how many kids you have. Kids are part of your family size, but a lot of people are like, well, I got daycare. Like, do they take that into consideration? It is a flat formula that the government does that says take the poverty rate out and then 10 or 15 or 20% of your income based on whichever one of the plans you're choosing.
So if you're making $100,000, say the poverty rate is 20,000. So that leaves $80,000. And so are you going to pay 20% of the 80,000 on your loan? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's how they're going to calculate your payment, and then they're going to break that into a monthly amount. Exactly.
Break that into a monthly amount. So 20% of 80,000 is 16,000.
Something like that.
Or because 8,000 is 10%. I know that because I'm an expert on calculating ties. So that's I think 16,000. And so over the course of the year, you would pay $16,000 for your loan rate.
Right. Divided by 12 is about a $1,300 a month student loan payment.
$1,300 a month student loan payment. And so we wanted to give you a sense of how that particular payment would be calculated. So, Lauryn, let's take a question, okay? And then we'll go to the next. What strategy do you suggest if your income equals your loan amount?
You are a person that is on the bubble. So it's always going to be it depends when your income is equal to your loan amount. So let's say you make $55,000 and your student loans are $55,000. Changes that have happened up to this point, you're going to want to be thinking about, like, do I have already 10 years toward an income-driven plan? And maybe I only have 10 more years to go. Or maybe I have 15 more years to go. Or maybe I'm just starting repaying my loans. If you have 20 or 25 years to go until your loans are forgiven, it's likely that your income is going to continue to increase above and beyond that amount. So now your income is higher than what you owe, and you're not going to be eligible for any forgiveness. So this is where doing a calculator, there's a great calculator. It's at studentloanplanner.com. I'll drop the link in a moment. But you can go and do a calculator and say, like, what does it look like to project my income into the future? Because the biggest mistake that you can make is getting on an income-driven plan just because the payment is low right now. And the payment is actually not going to stay low over the long term. And you end up paying, a bunch of interest accrues on you. And then you end up paying all that interest down. And then you pay your principal down. People don't realize like what this costs you over time. So, let's say you could just pay $500 a month and this $55,000 ends up being $65,000 with interest. Well, you might be like, well, I can get $100 a month payment and that's better. And then it kind of slowly climbs up to $500. But at the end of it, what did you pay on your loans? Maybe $85,000. You didn't feel that in the moment, but you paid $30,000 more towards your loans. And that is not a cost-effective way to pay. That's what diminishes our ability to gain wealth.
Awesome. Hopefully that was helpful. If you need further clarification, just keep those questions coming. We're going to keep moving on our presentation.
Back one.
There we go.
There we go. Public service loan forgiveness. So this is a really cool plan because there's a lot of people that are eligible for public service loan forgiveness that don't realize it. So public service loan forgiveness, what is it? It's if you work full-time at an eligible employer. That's any government agency or any 501c3. So the Boys and Girls Club, the Peace Corps, most churches are going to be 501c3s. Any kind of, like you said, work for the federal government, the city government, the state government, your school teacher. It doesn't matter. A lot of people think sometimes it's the type of job like, oh, I'm not a teacher, so I'm not in the public service. If you are a janitor in the school system, you are qualified for public service loan forgiveness. You just need to work full time, which is at least 30 hours per week on average at one of those places, and be a W-2 employee. The second piece of the puzzle is that you need to have direct loans. So I brought that up earlier. Before 2010, there were FFEL loans and direct loans, and it was the luck of the draw. You didn't do anything to get one or the other, but FFEL loans were more prevalent. They do not qualify for public service loan forgiveness. Right now, and as of 2010 going forward, only kind of loans that people offer is direct loans. So you're in the right kind of loans if you have direct loans. Other piece of the puzzle is that you need to be on one of those income-driven repayment plans that I just talked about on the previous slide. So all of them were 20 or 25-year plans on the previous slide, and that was assuming that you were not eligible for public service loan forgiveness. If you're eligible for public service loan forgiveness, you do one of those plans, but you only do it for 10 years, which leads to the last point that you see here, 120 qualifying payments. So you can work 2 years at the church, then you can go start working at a Starbucks. Well, Starbucks is a for-profit place, so you're not going to qualify then. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I like the Boys and Girls Club, and you go back. Those 2 years you did at the church count, and you've only got 8 more years to go. That's why I like to call it 120 qualifying payments, because while it is the equivalent of 10 years, you don't need to do them consecutively. You don't need to be at one particular place. You just pick up where you left off until you reach 120 payments while working at a qualifying employer. Best part about public service loan forgiveness is that it is forgiven tax-free. So you do not have to pay any tax to the government, whereas on those other plans that I talked about, you do need to be ready to pay taxes when your loans get forgiven after 20 or 25 years. So it's a huge deal. It can save you tons of money. You pay a fraction of what you borrowed on the loans, and I really think this is the most cost-effective way to make the most of your education if you can find a public service job.
Well, the closest thing to a blessing from God is tax-free.
Yes.
Listen, so if your blessing hasn't come in, but tax free opportunity comes, you want to take advantage of that. So we have a question, Lauren, and let's address the question. If I only have 6 payments left to get my loan totally removed through the public service loan forgiveness, will the new rule hurt me?
The new rules are not hurting anyone in any sort, form, or fashion. So if you are properly signed up, you're at MOHELA, so that's a good sign. Did you sign up for public service, yes or no? If your loans are at Nelnet, Aid Advantage, Great Lakes still, anywhere other than MOHELA, then you have not even signed up for the public service program. But this person is saying they got 6 payments left. So they have a counter in the MOHELA portal that says, hey, you only got 6 more to go. There's nothing that should ruin your ability. You just got to wait 6 more months and you should have public service loan forgiveness, assuming you're still working at that place. And we've got August and September. We know that nobody's going to have to make payments. So 2 more of your months are good. You're probably going to have 4 more months once we pick up in October. And then you're going to fill out your employer certification form the way that you always have, and you'll be good to go. The new rules don't hurt you or harm you in any way. They're not changing anything for the people who are qualified for public service loan forgiveness.
Wow. Lauren, thank you very much. Somebody put some emojis or something in the chat. This information is so powerful and clear and helpful, and I'm glad that individuals are being helped tonight. Before we go to the next slide, I want to hear this one question that we received from Sister Wilson. Suppose you are waiting for your public service loan forgiveness when September 1st comes.
So when public service, September 1, interest will accrue. October is when payments will begin. They are saying it's taking about 90 days from the time that you sign up and say, hey, I think I'm eligible for public service loan forgiveness, for them to process your paperwork. If at any point you need to make a payment between now and that time, that the 90 days passes and they actually forgive your loans, they will refund any of those payments. So September the 1st won't be the biggest deal. October was when you might have to start making payments if they haven't officially forgiven your loans yet. So you're one of those people that's right up on the bubble, but never fear. If you have to make your October payment as scheduled, they will give you that money back. They will issue you a refund as soon as they have processed your public service loan forgiveness. All right, ready to rock and roll? Let's keep this party going. I see the emojis coming through. All right. So another piece of the puzzle is that public service loan forgiveness is really cool. We talked about the requirements for those, but another thing that's happened is, like I said, taxable forgiveness. You pay on the loans for 20 or 25 years, whatever is left over is forgiven. We haven't seen or heard a whole lot about it because people have only been in these programs since 2009, so 25 years has not passed. However, there's this thing, the income-driven repayment adjustment that is happening right now, and they are allowing people to get payments from all kinds of stuff that happened in the past that were not income driven, that were pre 2009, counted towards your income driven repayment plan. And it is causing tons and tons of people to get forgiveness. You may have seen, I know if you follow these articles, or they sound super clickbaity, they're not very clear. They're talking about like this $39 billion of forgiveness that the president gave. This is part of that thing that they're talking about. Basically, a lot of people who would not otherwise have been eligible for any type of forgiveness are now going to get forgiveness as per this income-driven repayment account adjustment. So what is happening? They're going to say, hey, if you were on the extended plan, you were on the graduated plan, you were on the standard plan, you took a bunch of forbearances or deferments, you've been sticking your head in the sand and not paying your student loans, all of those types of payments are going to count as if you have been making payments on an income-driven repayment plan the whole time. And that's what they're actively doing now, is counting those payments for everyone, especially the people who they think would be eligible for forgiveness immediately. So what does that look like? You've been paying on your loans since the 90s. Let's say 1995, you started paying on your loans. Well, we got 2005, 2015, that would have given you 20 years. 2020 would have been 25 years. Your loans might be eligible to be forgiven if you've been paying on the loans that long. Doesn't matter if you don't know what an income-driven plan is or what it was. You're like, I never heard of that before. They're counting all the payments you made on any other payment plan towards your income-driven plan. The other thing they're doing is they're counting forbearances and deferments. So deferment-wise, they are not counting in-school deferment. So if you've been in school this whole time, those deferments don't count, and you're not going to get any credit for those. So don't look for them to count those payments. But the people who are going to be helped a lot, and I know this is a hard one, but some people are just like, oh, I can't deal with these loans. I can't deal with these loans. I can't deal with these loans. They've stuck their head in the sand. They've never paid their loans for 6 or 7 years. And they took forbearance. Well, if you have more than 12 months of consecutive forbearance, or you have more than 36 months in aggregate. So that's like, I'm in forbearance for 3 months, I come out, I pay for a month, then I go back into forbearance. I come in, I come out, I come in, I come out. I know I'm talking to somebody here. Guess what? You are being blessed. They are going to count it as long as you have more than 36 months of forbearance in totality, as if you have been making payments on an income-driven plan. So like I said, why is this awesome? Because they're going to allow you to get forgiveness if you have 25 years of payments already, or have those payments counted as if you were going towards your forgiveness. So when they finish your count, they may say, hey, you're 17 years into your 25 years. So you only have a few more years to go. They might say you're 10 years into your 25 years. You've got 15 years to go. But for a lot of people who've been paying on their loans since, like I said, the 90s, the early 2000s, they're going to be right up on their forgiveness time, and their loans are going to be fully forgiven before payments even begin again. So you want to make sure you have the right types of loans and that you're eligible for this. Like I said, if you've been paying on your loans all during COVID, but you have federal loans, you're not eligible for this right now. You need to consolidate your loans into the federal system. And I know that sounds weird. You're like, wait a minute, Lauren, you just said if I have federal loans, but I've been paying on them, then they're not eligible. FFEL loans can be privately held. So like I said, anybody who has not been able to take advantage of this 3-year pause during COVID, that's a clear indicator for me that you have FFEL loans that are privately held, and you need to consolidate them immediately if you want to be able to take advantage of the income-driven repayment adjustment. Let's go back to that slide, Pastor Lomax. All right, so we talked about the fact that all loans can count, the FFEL loans, the Perkins loans. We talked about that all repayment plans count. This very first thing says it's a second chance at the PSLF waiver. So what happened last year was they said, hey, we messed up. We didn't understand that we should have given you all more information related to public service loan forgiveness. So we want to fix that. We're going to allow you to consolidate your loans. We're going to allow you to submit repayment forms or for employers that were in the past. We're going to allow you to be qualified for public service, even if you weren't on an income-driven plan. So all of those criteria that I gave you are still the criteria for public service, but they're saying we're throwing all that out the window from now until, well, from last year until 12/31 of this year to qualify for the public service loan forgiveness waiver. What does this mean? If you know anybody that has federal student loans and works at a nonprofit, a government agency, go tell them about this program, because they may have thought they missed out on the opportunity to sign up for it, and they did not. They can right previous wrongs, and they can get credit for stuff that previously would not have counted, and they're all doing it under the same income-driven adjustment. So they just kind of slid the rules from that they made up last year. They said, oh, it's over October 31st of 2022, but then they let it roll over into this thing, and people don't know. That's why it's the second chance to get it. Then the other piece of the puzzle is consolidation. So consolidation loans are going to get credited with the highest number of payments toward your loan. So let me give you an example. You went to undergrad from 2004 to 2008. Then you took a 2-year break. So 2008 to 2010, you were, working somewhere, and you paid on those undergraduate loans during that time. Then in 2010, you went back to school, and you've been in school from 2010 to 2020, and then it was COVID. Well, all those loans from 2010 to 2020 don't have any credit because you've been in school deferment that whole time. Then you went on into COVID. Well, there's 2 years of credit on those first loans and all of the COVID forbearance. So a consolidation, squishing all those loans together in the federal system, would allow you to get credit for that same 2 years you did before you even had those older loans. All of your loans are going to be credited with the 2 years plus all of the COVID forbearance, which is an awesome piece of the puzzle. That makes your loans look nice and clean. You're going to see direct consolidated subsidized, direct consolidated unsubsidized. You're only going to have those two loans, and they're going to have a nice clean payment count that is going to be the highest number of payments you can get across all of the loans. So that is a really big deal. But you don't want to consolidate. Consolidation is not one size fits all, because if you do a consolidation, what are they going to ask for? They're going to ask for your income information. So where is this relevant? Let's say you were a doctor, and you were in residency back in 2020 when COVID started. You may have $40,000 or $50,000 of income. Now you're out of school, you're attending, you're doing your real doctor job, and you make $200,000. Well, if you consolidate your loans right now, they're going to calculate your payment based on that $200,000 of income. When, if you just leave it alone, they're going to calculate it based on that same $200 a month payment that you had before in my example. So you want to be careful. Consolidation can be great for a lot of people, and it's going to help a lot of people get a lot of payments counted. But you also don't want to consolidate just because everyone else is doing it. You may want to keep your old payment from 2018, 2019, 2020, and let that roll into for next year. I'm giving you a pause, Pastor, to see if you need to clarify anything. I see the chat's lighting up over here. Looks like everybody's just saying hi. I think we got this part covered. All right, no questions there.
Add your questions to the chat if you have a question. We are being blessed tonight by Lauryn Williams, who has demonstrated her expertise in this whole area of student loans. So I want you to take advantage of this. We certainly will post this particular study on our platforms, but you have her right here tonight where you can ask any question that you might need, because some of us have been asleep at the wheel. And listen, you don't need for the deadlines to start payments to come, and then you're trying to figure out what you need to do. You need to make sure you're armed and ready, that you're watching as well as praying. So here's a question. Let's look at it right here. It says, what if I already applied for the PSFL waiver? Do I have to do another one because the first one was failed or under the court ruling? Understand the question?
Yes, for better, for worse. Yes. So public service loan forgiveness is related to you working at a nonprofit employer, and the waiver, if you signed up for it, you worked at a nonprofit place, or you still work at a nonprofit place, and you're trying to get your payments counted. They should have counted your payments by now. If they have not, then I would circle back and I would fill out that employer certification form again. But you should be able to log into Mohila and see I have 55 payments of 120, or I have 65, or whatever your particular number is. Or if you thought you had 120, they should have made you aware by now that, hey, you do have 120, or nope, you only have 115, keep going. The first one under the court ruling, the court ruling is something completely separate. So what we went to court for recently was $10,000 or $20,000 of forgiveness. A lot of people were banking on that. It's completely separate of public service loan forgiveness. But what it is that if you made less than $125,000 a year as an individual, or less than $250,000 as a married couple, you were going to be eligible for $10,000 of forgiveness, or $20,000 of forgiveness if you were also a Pell Grant recipient. That is the thing that got held up in court. We waited a long time, and on June 30th, the Supreme Court shot it down. Nobody is getting the $10,000 or $20,000 of forgiveness. So that is not related to public service. No one is getting that. And so one does not affect the other. If you've already signed up for public service, you should see your payments being counted. You should be able to log into Mohila and see that. And nobody is getting the 10 or 20K, unfortunately. It would have been a great help to a lot of people. All right, so let's get back to talking about payments restarting. So the first thing is that recertifications will start 6 months after the pause ends. I've kind of alluded to this up to now, but this is a huge deal because actually I had a student loan call with someone today, and her repayment was scheduled for October of 2023. Well, 6 months later, nobody needs to recertify, right? So October is when payments are going to begin. So let's go 6 months from there. October, November, December, January, February, March. So if your normal recertification date on your income-driven plan falls anywhere between October and March, you still don't need to recertify your student loans, even though payments are beginning again. Why is this relevant? So for the young lady I spoke to today, she had a $0 payment heading into COVID. She didn't have a job. She had just come out of school. Her payment was calculated as 0 on an income-driven plan. So when payments begin in October, her payment will still be 0. She's on an income-driven plan. She is getting credit toward her 20 years, and not until October of 2024 will they next ask her for her income. So that is a big piece of the puzzle. Like, wow, I don't have to pay again until October of 2024, even though payments are beginning again in October. It could be the same situation for you depending on what your payment previously was. So you do not want to recertify your income prematurely. If you do not have to and it's going to benefit you, don't recertify your income until they ask you to. Now, you can recertify your income early if it helps you. Why would you do that? You had a job loss. You're currently unemployed. You're currently on maternity leave. For any reason, your income went down and it is going to make your payment less than what it was pre-COVID. So like you have an $800 a month payment when we got into COVID, and now you're doing something completely different for work and you're making a lot less money. You might have a $200 a month payment. You absolutely want to give them your income information so that they can do that. And then the very last point on this slide says generous forbearance rules for the next 12 months until payments restart. So as we said, we know a lot of people thought that there was going to be blanket forgiveness. Someone's going to swoop in with the cape and make it disappear. A lot of people have had, various struggles related to COVID. And then some people just have not prepared and are not going to be in a position to absolutely pay anything toward their loans when October rolls around. Well, they're going to allow you to use forbearance, which is going to still allow interest to accrue for the next 12 months, but it's not going to count toward your 3 years of normal forbearance. So there's a special forbearance that they're offering where you can continue to not pay your loans, but I don't recommend using that unless you are in a really dire situation. You've got a bunch of credit card debt. Like I said, you have a specific situation where, you have a lot of money going out from an expense standpoint. Someone in your family is ill. You're flying back and forth across the country. If you are not in dire straits, then I would say organize your finances now and be ready for repayment so that you don't need to use that forbearance. All right, let's keep the good times rolling. Any questions over there? Let's see. I think we got that one covered. Let's go on over. So back to this Save Repay plan. So this was a big deal that came out on June 30th. There's what we were calling it the new repay plan previously because we knew that it was going to replace the current revised pay-as-you-earn plan. So you might be on a program right now that's called REPAYE, Revised Pay-as-you-earn. President Biden created the SAVE plan, and that is what is going to replace it. So I mentioned earlier that payments are either going to be 5% or 10% of income. If you have consolidated your loans and mixed your undergraduate loans and your graduate loans together, they're going to use the weighted average of those two. They're also going to use 225% of the poverty line. So you remember when we were doing that example earlier on, and we were talking about 1.5 times the federal poverty rate. Now it's going up to 2.25 times the federal poverty rate. What does that mean? More income is deducted before they do the calculation for you. So in my example earlier, it was like $15,000. In this case, it would be $25,000 that's taken out before they even do the calculation. So that only gives you a lower student loan payment, which may be the reason you want to switch to this plan. Now, you're going to want to think about it because it's not, like I said, one size fits all. Like, oh, smaller payment, let me just jump on that plan. No, no, no. You have to think about what's right for your particular situation. The forgiveness timeline is going to stay the same. So I said it's 20 years for undergraduate loans, and then it's 25 years for graduate school loans. Then married filing separately is now allowed. So if you previously were on the revised pay-as-you-earn plan, they would use both your income and your spouse's income to calculate your payment. Doesn't matter how your tax filing status was. On the pay-as-you-earn plan, the income-based plan, the ICR plan, all of those allowed you to do married filing separately, but repay did not. This new plan that's replacing it is also going to allow for married filing separately, which is a huge deal because we want the spouse's income out. More of our income is not being taken into consideration. And if you look at the next bullet point on this slide, you see the interest subsidy goes from 50% to 100% of unpaid interest. So let me give you an example of what that means. Let's say you've got a really big student loan balance, and every month $1,000, $1,100, just to make the math nice and easy, is accruing $1,100 of interest every single month. They tell you that based on your income, you got to have $100 a month payment. So $100 a month is what you pay. $1,000 a month is still accruing in interest every month. So at the end of the year, your student loan balance is $12,000 larger than you started out, because you can only afford to pay $100 a month. This is a real situation that people are dealing with. So on the repaid plan, what they were saying is like, hey, instead of the whole $1,000 accruing for you on a monthly basis, only $500 of it is going to accrue, which is pretty good. Like, now I only owe $6,000 more at the end of the year instead of the full $12,000. Well, with this new SAVE plan, 100% of the unpaid interest is covered. So you get to the end of the year and you don't owe any more than you owed to start out with. You paid your $100 a month as they told you to, and none of the interest accrued. This is the best thing about this new payment plan and why a lot of people are going to switch over. Any questions over here? I see some people, great information, good. Okay, we're helping people out over there, great. Then we have just 2 more points on this slide. So one thing is that you're not going to be able to switch repayment plans. So what a lot of people were doing was like, oh, I'll get on the 25-year plan for a while, and then I'll switch over to the 20-year plan so I can get forgiveness sooner. You're going to need to commit to a plan. So after 60 payments, which is basically 5 years, you will not be able to switch in and out of the plan. You need to choose something. And why is this important? Because this very last bullet point, pay as you earn, that's the one I told you. If you borrowed exclusively after October 1st of 2007, is a good plan. It's a 20-year plan, but it's going to go away. You have to be on that before July of 2024 if that is the best plan for you. So this is where analysis is really going to matter, because the SAVE plan could be good, but the pay plan might still be better for some people. And after 2024, you're not going to have it as an option. So you might want to get on the pay as you earn plan, maybe get some analysis later on and, from an expert, and then decide, okay, it's better for me to switch to the SAVE plan. But there's a lot of key pieces of the puzzle. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars per person, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars that can be saved by knowing what is best for you instead of just doing what is best, based on what your friend said or what someone else said. So you absolutely want to clue into these things and do a little bit more research about what is particular to your situation. Let's see, I'm not seeing any questions over here. Pastor Lomax, any questions from you?
Yeah, I have a question. You talked about married, filing single or jointly. Is that a question that someone would need to ask an accountant, or the calculation is simple enough for individuals to do themselves to determine which is going to be the best approach?
Oh, that is an excellent question. So a lot of people, especially in communities of color, are doing married filing separately because they don't want their finances intertwined with their spouse. Married filing separately is less advantageous than married filing jointly. So you may already be costing yourself money unnecessarily if you don't need to do married filing separately. But from a student loan perspective, it is frequently that married filing separately is going to be beneficial. However, like I said, it might be more it might be less cost effective from from an overall tax filing perspective. So you absolutely want to be working with an accountant and someone who understands what married filing separately is, how it works. I would assume most people listening here tonight are in Florida. It is a normal state, so there are things called community property states. So if you live in California, for example, married filing separately is done completely different there than it's done in Florida. So if you're thinking about moving, or if you work in an employer that's in another place, or something along those lines, you want to be wary of the fact that it's done differently in 9 states in America than it is in all the other 41 states. Like I said, Florida is a normal state. It is a pretty normal process. It's just your income and your spouse's income, kind of 2 separate things. But it is absolutely something I think it's worth its weight in gold. Accountant costs you $200 or $300 to make sure that this gets done right. So one of the things, as an example, is when you do married filing separately, you can't put money in a Roth IRA. Well, Roth IRAs are all the rage right now. And so people are like, oh, give me a Roth, give me a Roth. Well, you need to know that you can't do that, because you might have put all your money in there. Then you did this married filing separately, and now you're going to have a tax issue in the future. So I would absolutely recommend working with a professional to make sure that your tax filing status also is in line with your student loan strategy.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. You're certainly welcome. We're going to go to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
And okay.
All right. Yeah, we're getting close to the end here. So 5 common student loan mistakes that people mistake. 5 that people make. There we go. The first one is refinancing mistake. So I mentioned earlier consolidating your loans. A lot of people use the term consolidating and refinancing interchangeably, and they are not interchangeable when we're talking about student loans. So people talk, oh, I refinanced my car. They took their car and they went and got a lower interest rate so that they could have a lower payment, so that they paid less interest on it. When you refinance your student loans, it's the same thing. You're taking your loans out of the federal system, so away from studentaid.gov, away from Nelnet, Mohila, whoever your servicer is, and you're putting them with a private company. So that's like SoFi, Earnest, Common Bond. You probably get junk mail from all of those and many more. Private refinancing is when you put your loans at a private company. You are no longer federal. You have none of the benefits of the federal system. No COVID forbearance, no income-driven repayment plan. If you were to pass away, you should have some sort of life insurance to cover those student loans. The benefits of going to a private company is to get a lower interest rate, and your only option once you've gone private is to pay your loans back in their entirety. You do not want to refinance unless you are absolutely sure that you can afford to pay your loans back and that you're going to benefit from getting a lower interest rate and paying your loans back aggressively. I've seen this mistake happen too many times. Your friend's like, oh, I got a new great interest rate. Use my link and you can refinance too. When you refinance, you have no option other than to pay your loans back. Consolidating, on the other hand, is taking all of the loans. So every semester you got a loan, you log into studentaid.gov, you see 10 or 15 different loans. Consolidating is taking all those loans, squishing them down. And I mentioned this earlier, direct consolidated subsidized, direct consolidated unsubsidized. So they've been consolidated down, but they are still federal loans. You still get COVID forbearance. If you pass away, your loans pass away with you. You still have access to the income-driven repayment plans. You still have access to forbearance if you get into some sort of financial pickle and you can't pay your loans. Consolidation happens in the federal system. Refinancing happens outside of the federal system. You definitely want to know the difference, and you don't want to use those terms interchangeably. Do not make the mistake of refinancing when you meant to consolidate. The other piece of the puzzle is that when you refinance, you want to be aggressive and you want to go find the company that's going to be best for you. So you can refinance 6 months later if you find somebody else that has a lower interest rate, and another 6 months later if you find another low interest rate. It's not like buying a house where every single time they're going to charge you origination fees and closing costs and all of that. So if you know you're in the refinance bucket, don't be afraid to get the best interest rate and get those loans off your plate. The second thing I see as a problem is people avoiding home ownership. And I always say that, when you say that student loans are holding you back from home ownership, it's because you don't have a financial plan. You need to have an overall plan for your finances in order to be able to buy a home, because this is not the thing that's going to hold you back. You need to get rid of your credit card debt. You need to save the money for the home down payment. They're not going to just look at your loan balance and say you're not eligible. They look at your monthly debt to income ratio when you go to buy a home. And usually when you're on an income driven plan, you're going to have a low monthly payment related to your income. So it's not going to overall affect, you bring in $2,000 a month and your student loan payments are $200, like you have a low debt to income ratio. Whereas if you got a $1,500 a month student loan payment, you bring home $2,000 a month, you have a high debt to income ratio on a monthly basis. They're not looking at your $400,000 balance or, your $40,000 balance. They're looking at how much are you paying on a monthly basis. So that's one piece of the puzzle. Not having perfect info about the forgiveness options. So we talked a lot about them today. We're covering a lot of information in just 60 minutes, but not understanding what is appropriate for you can cost you a ton of money. And doing what your friend is doing can also cost you a lot. The number of people that have come to me and said they're on an income-based repayment plan, IBR, and have actually been on that one, but they just got on it because they knew it was somehow tied to income, but it wasn't. It's one of the 4 options. They didn't realize that they needed to choose one of the different options. It's appalling. So please make sure that you know what is appropriate for you. The other thing as it relates to mistakes is not knowing about the various loopholes that exist. So there's, like I said, a community property loophole. If you have those Parent Plus loans that I talked about, which is, usually you borrowed on behalf of your children, there's a loophole called the double consolidation loophole that you can use there. There's a double debt loophole. So both you and your spouse have big 6-figure debts. There's a loophole that helps you actually pay a lower monthly payment by doing married filing separately. So like I said, it's not one size fits all. You need to know what is specific to your situation. Loopholes are not fraudulent. They are things that people don't know or understand about the student loan system, and they don't generally take advantage of because they don't realize that, hey, if I do these 3 extra steps, I can take advantage of this thing. So a lot of people are always like, oh, the rich people don't pay taxes. I don't want to pay taxes like them. And then you just like flat out cheat on your taxes. It's like, no. Rich people are taking advantage of loopholes because they've done the research. Same thing with student loans. There is research that is available that like the loopholes are available to everyone. And then the very last thing, and I talked about this at the beginning, I can't drive it home enough, is not committing to either being in the passive bucket or the aggressive bucket. So passive is you earn less than you owe, and aggressive is you earn more than you owe. You want to decide which side of the fence am I on, and then you want to get on that and do it properly. You do not want to have somebody assign you $100 a month student loan payment and you really can't afford to pay your loans off. Like you owe 150 and you make 50 and you're like, oh, but let me just pay 125 every month. Newsflash, you are throwing $25 away every single month if that's all the extra you can pay toward loans. And sometimes it feels like we're doing the right thing. Like, well, the Lord said, be a good steward. I'm trying to pay my loans down. I'm doing the best I can. I'm adulting. You are wasting money by not understanding your strategy. Do not pay a penny extra toward your loans if you're on one of those income-driven plans. And if you are trying to be aggressive and pay your loans down, get serious about it and get aggressive about it. Find every extra dollar, pick up your side hustle, and get those loans off your plate as quickly as possible so you can save as much money on interest as possible. One or the other, nowhere down the middle. I think that is the last slide. Is there anything else that I needed to cover? I said, make sure these questions over in the chat. Yeah, that is the last one. So again, my name is Lauryn Williams. You can find me at Lauryn C. Williams on Instagram and Twitter as well. I have a podcast that is all about educating people to be a little bit more in tune with their money, to make sure that they don't feel alone as they go through money things in life. People come on and they share their money memoir. I do a few series with other financial planners so we can educate you. You can scan here on the screen. Actually, I love my assistant. I didn't even know this was here. If you want to, figure out how to figure out your student loan situation and get a personalized plan. It has been a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to bring this information to you all. I know it is super duper confusing. The Department of Education should have done better by us way sooner, but hopefully you found this information helpful. Hopefully you share something that you learned this evening with a friend, a family member, because there is a lot of ways that you can save money. There's a lot of ways that you can continue to build wealth and optimize your finances. And this is just one piece of the puzzle. So without further ado, Pastor Lomax, I'll turn it back over to you. Any other questions? Don't be shy. I am here to help.
Lauryn, thank you very much. I am very much a believer in us being good stewards over the resources that God has blessed us with and the opportunities. So many of us have had the opportunity to earn an education. We required financial assistance to do it. Those student loans helped us to earn our degrees and to finish our programs. And so it's also good stewardship to address those loans properly and have that as a part of our overall financial plan in terms of how we want to grow our resources and accumulate wealth and financial stability. So let's make sure that we're informed. A lack of information or misapplying information is usually the pathway to financial mistakes. And so let's make sure that we're taking advantage of this. So Lauryn, I want to say to you, thank you very much for showing up tonight and being a blessing to our church and to our community. And I want to thank each of you who has come on tonight. We hope that you were blessed by it, informed, empowered, and encouraged by the information that you received. So Lauryn did share her contact information. I want to put this back on the screen again. If you want to get in contact with her, for her to help you navigate your way through either your student loan debt or any other process, financial resource that you might need, she is more than capable of guiding you. Her services are affordable and they are also effective. And so so someone asked, can I pray to have our loans canceled? And I can pray. I definitely can pray, and I hope your loans are canceled. And we'll definitely pray before we're finished tonight. So before we go, we do have a couple of announcements. So I want you just to hang in here with me. So announcements. So what are the announcements? One, we have baptism this week. And so baptism and communion. So we have brothers and sisters who have demonstrated their faith in Jesus Christ, and we're going to baptize them. Be there on Sunday. Come out, support our brothers and sisters who are part of the faith. And also we encourage you, if you are not a part of a small group, in the fall, the small group sessions will begin. Make sure you sign up and that you're a part. We also have prayer cells where we are praying every night. Become a part. You will be blessed. Okay. I think that's everything for the evening. Let's pray. Let's pray. Before we pray, Lauryn, we have in the chat, someone says they would love to invite you to speak at Palm Beach State College. So
I would be honored. So worth-winning.com is the website. I didn't put those on the slide. Or Lauryn-Williams.com. There's a speaker form there you can fill out. My assistant will get back to you like pretty much ASAP. We love going places and, like I said, sharing the good news. So, yeah.
All right, let's pray. God, we thank you for the opportunity to hear this rich information tonight. Thank you for Lauryn, who's come and given her time to help empower us and inform us. We thank you for each person who was helped and for the information that clarified the steps that they need to take in order to deal with the student loans that help secure their education. So God, we do pray for a natural and proper application of all this information, but we do know also that there is supernatural power to do miraculous things. And we ask God that you would use your power to bless your people mightily. And so God, we trust and depend on you. We give you thanks for all the resources that you provide for us, that we might have the abundant life And we pray that you would help us to be a witness and to share with others. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen, amen, and amen. And thank each of you. God bless you. We will post this on our platforms, on our website also, so that you can access it and review the information. So God bless you. Bible study will conclude for the rest of the summer. We will start back in September. So in the meantime, spend some time with your families on Wednesday night, or friends. You can make sure you have an hour that is going to be freed up. Put that on your calendar to spend some time with friends and family. It's going to be a blessing. Okay. So God bless you, everybody. Have a good night.